The Sabres sweep the West Coast road trip. The standings are fun to look at. There's a lot to get to coming up on today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, and thanks for making today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast your first listen every day. Check us out on our YouTube channel where you can watch the show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Fun Monday show planned as we have got a 3-game win streak. Last week, I told you, 5 of 6 points should be the goal for the Buffalo Sabres as they go out west. They come home with 6 of 6. They took every available point to them, and that was without their best player, Tage Thompson, ever stepping foot on the ice. We'll talk about the Anaheim and San Jose games on today's show. I want to really give some applause to the goaltending on this trip by the Sabres. Owen Power is on my mind today, and the breakout that he is quietly having in the NHL, and then a little bit of a look at the standings, in particular, the two teams the Sabres have jumped ahead in the Atlantic Division and how likely it is that they are going to stay above those two teams. All that ahead here on today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast with Sneaky Joe DiBiase. If you would like to become one of our Locked On Sabres texters in our text club, you want to sign up, join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres. If you're looking for all your updates on Tage's injury status, line combinations at practice, who's starting in goal, and then, of course, as we're going back and forth throughout these games, all that, join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres if you would like to sign up there. So, 3 wins. We talked about the LA game last week, the 1-0. They found a way. They got a great goaltending game from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen Friday and Saturday. The 2 games since we have spoken to you last. The Sabres got 2 more incredible games goaltending-wise from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and then in his Sabres debut, James Reimer, both coming through in a big, big way over the last 2 games. If you look at Luukkonen and Reimer from a statistical standpoint, if you watched the games and saw some of the saves that they made, there's no denying that they are 2 of the biggest reasons the Sabres were able to come home with that 3-game win streak. The Sabres were not great the whole trip, I don't think. I don't think they were very dangerous. I think what I had projected for them in the LA game last week, which was a little more of a lock it down, defensive style hockey, block shots, get in the lanes, get the puck out, simple plays, right? I think they incorporated that style against LA, and then I think they carried that over into Anaheim and San Jose. They really did grind it out. They tried to prevent as many shots as possible. I think they did a pretty good job of that. Defensively, I thought it was a pretty solid trip from the Sabres. And again, offensively, there weren't a ton of shifts where I thought, oh man, they're going to get one here. They're going to get one here. It was chances off the rush. It was dirty goals where you get a wrist shot from a point and you jam it in. But they found their way. They scored just enough. And when you get good goaltending like that, you don't have to play unbelievably well. Now, the Friday game. Let's talk a little bit first here about what happened in Anaheim. The Sabres in that game down 2-0, and it was, for me, here we go, now a bad hockey team, and yes, Anaheim's a bad hockey team. Like, here we go, they're gonna blow one here, one against a team that's very winnable, and they weren't playing well. Second period, they were not playing well, and then bam, just like that. What a final 90 seconds of that period to get the win, where you go goal, Alex Tuch, then Jason Zucker, and you're able to cash it in. And the Sabres had the Ducks running around at the end of that period, which sometimes all it takes is 3 minutes of unbelievable play to get the other team running around and in their own heads. And then just like that, it's 2-2. And now mentally they're scrambling. And I think that's a lot of what happened against the Ducks in this game. Those final 2 goals, if you watch back the Jason Zucker breakaway goal and then what happened immediately after, the Sabres almost took the lead 3-2 at the end of that period, where the Ducks have a guy, 55, for the Anaheim Ducks, who I believe the name on that is Brian Dumoulin, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Brian Dumoulin. Is chasing Sam Lafferty around in the Sabres defensive zone, allowing, and he's up in the play. The Ducks are in a change. There's nobody back covering the point. And again, the guy's trying to fight Lafferty. I don't even know why. And then Owen Power, good job by Power, recognizes that lane and gets the puck and shoots it up to Jason Zucker on a breakaway, who's able to bury it. Power, by the way, who we'll talk about, 2 assists in that game. Really strong performance from him. And then right after that goal, Alex Killorn, a veteran player, a Stanley Cup winner, just mugs Peyton Krebs off the faceoff for no reason whatsoever, other than just the Ducks seemed frustrated. And then he took a penalty because of that. And Alex Tuch almost took the lead. So the Sabres really got in the Ducks' heads for a couple of minutes there, which allowed them to get the game tied. And then in overtime, 2-0, Power gets robbed by John Gibson, but a good job by Yuri Kulik to not only follow it up, but it might seem like an easy goal because Gibson is down and out. If you watch that playback closely, the overtime game winner from Yuri Kulik, his second goal of the year, got the game winner. And Kulik, by the way, on the weekend, playing center again, really working out. He should not move from center. We'll talk more about that this week, though, that Kulik needs to stay at center. That might be tough to do because the Sabres have a lot of centermen, but I think Kulik's got to stay at center. He was 21 of 29 on faceoffs over the weekend on Friday and Saturday, which is an unbelievable job by Kulik. It's an incredible number, 21 of 29 on faceoffs. But anyways, that goal, Power shoots it, it bounces up in the air, and when it lands, so Tuch does a good job of kind of pinning the Ducks defenseman away. You've got Gibson laying on the ice, so you can't shoot it low. You do have the whole top of the net, but you only have the top of the net. This has to go above Gibson, this shot. And the puck is rolling, but it doesn't matter. Kulik is that good of a finisher. Rolling puck, goalie down, and he roofs it top shelf. So a really impressive goal by Kulik, even though it might have seemed like an easier goal than you might think because the goalie was out. So Sabres got the win in Anaheim. And then on Saturday against San Jose, I thought throughout that save a couple of shifts, it looked like a team that had just played the night before. And that is both an excuse and a criticism, I would say, at the same time. They looked to me like a team that had played the night before. There was not a lot of energy. There was not a lot of danger. They were not creating a lot of chances. But, and remember, that game was not 24 hours after. It was 19 hours after because the Sabres had played the night before at 10 o'clock Eastern time. That game also went to overtime. And then the next night it was at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So 2 hours earlier for the game time within the same day of each other. The Sabres found a way to win that hockey game when, listen, I know it's a bad San Jose team that helped them to win the game. That's not a game you should typically win. You've got your backup goaltender in, and you're on the second of a back-to-back. Most teams lose that hockey game. At least I bet the win percentage for teams in that circumstance is probably like 25%. That's a total guess, by the way, but it just feels like that would be around the number. And the Sabres found a way to get it done. Now, they might have been playing their backup goaltender, but they got starting goalie results from James Reimer in this game. He was absolutely the Sabres' best player on the night. Got the #1 star, a .939 save percentage, stopping 31 of 33 saves. He would definitely be one of my sneaky stars from the Sabres and Sharks game. And the acrobatic glove save that he made is going to be hard to beat for save of the year for the Buffalo Sabres. Reimer, second period, this is a big spot. They are on the power play. They are up 2-1. They're out shooting the Sabres at this point, 23-12. If this puck goes in, mentally the Sabres might have crashed. They might have said, oh, we're already dog tired. Now we're down 2 goals. Like, they might have packed it in. But Reimer comes across on Macklin Celebrini, the number 1 overall pick of the NHL draft, has got the whole net to shoot at. And James Reimer, the save is impressive. The spot, the timing is also very important for the save. Reimer flies across with the glove and makes the sprawling save, but that's not all, because now the puck's up in the air. He kind of makes the save. You watch the one angle with the pad of his glove right below the mitt. So, like, it's his glove that gets a piece of it, but it's that straight pad below the catcher's mitt part. And the puck goes up in the air, and he whips the glove around to catch it and flip back for the whistle. It's an unbelievable save. It was on SportsCenter Top 10. It's going to be probably the Sabres save of the year. And Reimer in general, a lot of odd man opportunities that he stopped, a lot of point blank scoring opportunities. He made 3 incredible blocker saves all in the third period to turn away would-be scores. So Reimer did his job. Sneaky stars of that game. My other 2, if I had to go with 2 others, would be Peyton Krebs. Krebs is starting to look pretty good on a night-to-night basis to me. And in this game, he got moved from center to the wing, played a lot with Dylan Cousins and Zach Benson. And Krebs did score a goal in this game. It's a 2-on-1 opportunity. He comes down and he roofs it top shelf. So a good goal by Krebs. He had on the night 64.2% Corsi for percentage. So the Sabres, when Peyton Krebs was on the ice in this game, had they had 18 shot attempts while the Sharks had 10. That was the final number. So good night for Krebs. And then Bo Byram. Bo Byram quietly also having a good offensive season. And I think he is continuing to impress. I'm seeing more and more of these charts comparing Byram and Middlestat. The season started and it felt like Sabre fans were grabbing onto that of, we really need Middlestat. If I could hit, I even said it, if I could hit the redo button right now, I would do that. I would hit that button to get Middlestat back. Right now, I don't know that I would hit that button. I might not. Bo Byram, 2 assists against the Sharks, 59.5% shot attempt percentage for him. When he was on the ice, the Sabres had 25 shot attempts. The Sharks had 17. Shots in general were 12-8 when Byram was on the ice. The Sabres scored 2 goals when he was on the ice. The Sharks scored none. Scoring chances were pretty even, 8-9 in favor of the Sharks. So in general, Byram had a nice night. They had a positive impact on the overall team. Bo Byram now is number 3 in the NHL in even strength points for defensemen. He is only behind Cale Makar and the guy we're going to talk about in the second segment of today's show, Owen Power. That's right. Right now, even strength points for defensemen in the NHL this season goes Cale Makar number 1, Owen Power number 2, and Bo Byram number 3. It's been a very impressive start to the season for both of them. And Byram continues to look better and better, especially now that he's playing with Dahlin. I think that's helping him a lot, as you would expect. Finally, there's one goal I want to break down from this game. One goal from the Sharks game on Saturday night. And it's the Dylan Cousins goal. His 4th of the year. He, I thought, had a pretty tough night against Anaheim. Wasn't overall super impressed with him for the whole week. It's a guy you'd like to step up and produce more chances with Tage Thompson out. I thought he did a little bit, but not as much as you might hope. But important game-tying goal early in the third period. Cousins scored one of the most important goals of the week, and it was all him. It was a lot of him. It's the third period goal to make it 2-2, 18 minutes in the third period. If you're looking for the video, you want to follow along. It's a nice little play. Cousins actually starts it because the Sharks have the puck. And it's a Cousins forecheck that causes the turnover by the San Jose defenseman. Then Krebs flips the puck back to the point. And if you watch Cousins on this play, watch the goal again and watch Cousins the whole time. Cousins goes from forechecking. He loops back up as he sees Krebs get it to the point. And what Cousins does is Cousins is like a coach out there. He's directing traffic. He's directing Byram. Hey, get the puck to Dahlin. Because his plan is, and this is what happens, Cousins' mind has already thought this out. Because you see it. His stick, he's pointing up in the air. Pass it to Dahlin. What he's planning here is you throw it to Dahlin. I'm going to go into this open space in the high slot and get ready for a one-timer. And that's exactly what happens. Byram sees Cousins' direction, goes, okay, throws it over to Dahlin, and then Dahlin makes the really smart choice because Rasmus Dahlin has a one-timer. He has an open clap bomb one-timer, and he's got a lane, but there's no traffic in front. So it's going to take a whale of a shot. He's going to have to beat this goalie one-on-one from distance. He could do it, but it's a low probability. Instead, this is good vision by Dahlin. He sees Cousins loaded up. And good job by Cousins to put the stick up in the air to like, hey, I'm ready for this one-timer. That's what he does. Dahlin puts it right in his wheelhouse. Nice soft pass between the legs, kind of on his forefront. And Cousins, I love this goal so much. Cousins goes down on one knee, rips the slap shot from distance. And the reason, I don't know that Dahlin's thinking this quickly because this is hockey. It's a fast play. So this could have been coincidence. But Dahlin passed up an open one-timer with no traffic in front for a Dylan Cousins one-timer that's got traffic in front because Benson is on the right side of the goaltender. So if Dahlin shoots it, the goalie doesn't have to deal with Benson. Versus if Cousins shoots it, he does have to deal with Zach Benson. And by the way, if you watch the camera angle, I don't think this is goaltender interference. It's almost kind of smart. Again, same thing. I don't think Benson did this on purpose, but he's just there trying to cause havoc. The goalie, Mackenzie Blackwood, goes to make the blocker save, and the top of his stick goes into Zach Benson. So Benson, but it's so subtle. It's such a little bit of contact, they'd never call it. Well, it's the NHL, actually. Maybe they would call it. But Benson kind of interrupts the goaltender there, but I don't think it would have mattered. Then Cousins would have scored anyway. So a great goal. It was an important goal to get them at the 2-2 tie. Tuck, obviously, with the shorthanded after. But a great job there by Dylan Cousins and a smart play. A lot of you had hard work from Cousins with the forecheck. You had the intelligence to set the play up and set himself up for a scoring opportunity. And then you had the shot, which deserves credit itself. So a great job by Dylan Cousins there, and a great job by the goaltending. Number one star for the week went to goaltending. When we come back, though, I want to talk about Owen Power, who has been having a breakout season, I think. I think it's fair to say that. That's ahead when we come back on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle NFL action all season long with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets all in the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You can check all that out, including hockey, too. You got a hunch on a hockey game in the middle. You want to check the live play-by-play out there. Look some live bets. That's available, too. Check it out, FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Let's talk on this 3-game win streak here the Sabres have as they will return home on Wednesday. So we've got a couple days off here before they play the Minnesota Wild. I want to talk today about Owen Power. Owen Power, who just turned 22, by the way, still very young, just turned 22 3 days ago. I think it's pretty quiet. I don't think it's really happening in large part around the league that he's getting this recognition. Maybe a little bit. I wonder if he'll play into the Team Canada selection process for the Four Nations Cup at all. I think probably not. But Owen Power, for a time over the weekend, you might have seen the broadcast point this out on MSG. After Anaheim on Friday night, Owen Power was #1 in the NHL in even strength points for defensemen. He was above Cale Makar. Since Makar has taken him over. So it's 16 points for Makar, 15 for Power, and then 13 for Byram, who's in third. But 15 even strength points for Owen Power. And it was almost 16. Well, no, actually, he did get an assist, I think, on the Yuri Kulik goal in the shoot in overtime. But 2 more assists against Anaheim on Friday. Power now in 21 games is sitting with 3 goals and 12 assists. That's 15 points. His career high, keep in mind, is 35 points. Right now, Owen Power is very easy math because 21 games is multiplied by 4. Owen Power is on pace for 12 goals, double his career high, and 60 points, almost double his career high. This offensively, at least, massive step up for Owen Power. And I said this last week. Every time I'm watching him, I think Power is playing a more mature game. There is no panic in his game at all anymore. If he's getting pressured on the forecheck, he's not panicking. He is not, I got to punt this puck off the boards and cause a turnover. He is using his body. He's using his length. He's got a little forward on him. I'm good. If he's right here, I'm still okay. I've got the puck. He's not taking it from me. I got a half a second here to peek my head up and make sure I make the right pass. Power, I mean, that's really what happens on the Jason Zucker breakaway goal, is Power's got his head up. Power is looking over the ice. He's very much quarterbacking the whole team while he's out there. In that situation, it's Josh Allen with a guy open deep. It's, I got my head up. That's the pass. Bam, right on the stick in stride. He's got a breakaway. He doesn't have to hold up and gather the puck. And that's a passing ability the Power has. But to me, it's more his mind. And I do think it's his physics. It's a couple things. I think he is bigger. I think weight-wise, he looks stronger to me. He's still not this guy, and he's never going to be the guy that is throwing bone-crushing hits. He can get pushed around a little bit for his size, but I do think he's doing a lot more of the pushing. I think more so now when he's locked in a one-on-one battle with a guy in front of the net, I think Power more times than not now is winning that battle. I think when he goes into a corner on a 50-50 puck, that might have been a place where you were thinking, okay, I'd like him to put 15 pounds on, win that battle more often. I think he's winning those battles more often now. I think the offensive mentality has taken a step up. I think you're seeing Owen Power. Keep an eye on him in a game. Watch him away from the puck, too, in games coming up. I think you're seeing Owen Power much more often jump up into plays. You're seeing him with more of a mentality that Dahlin has possessed for a couple years, which is, I know I'm a defenseman, but I'm one of the best players on the ice. So I got a chance to jump up in the play. I'm going to take it. And his shot is better. I don't think it's still amazing, but it's definitely better than where it's been. That was the biggest concern of his game for me in the first couple of years. Now it's respectable for sure. Power just in so many ways offensively, I think he looks more of a dangerous player. He looks like more of an aggressive player. And maybe that's getting your feet wet. That is, we've talked about this with him, comparing him to Victor Hedman, which is you're more of a control all ends of the ice type of defenseman. There's an IQ part of that. So once you are more confident about your own end, when you're more confident about breakouts going back against you, you have more of a sense of what's going on around you. You're more comfortable then to jump up in the play. So I think you're seeing that from Owen Power. I think he's really starting to come into his own. I think his ice time continues to rise too. I don't think that. I mean, I'm looking at it. His ice time, he's still averaging 21:45 on the year. So under 22 minutes a night. But his ice time in his last 5 games, 22:41 against Montreal and then working up, 23 minutes exactly against St. Louis, 23-13 against Philadelphia, 22-21 against LA, 23-20 against Anaheim, and then 26-50 against the San Jose Sharks. So sorry, it's actually 6 games in a row now. He's played more than 23 minutes. And I expect that to continue. I think the ice time is going to keep rising because Lindy Ruff is realizing he's got a damn good defenseman back there. He's got 2 number 1 defensemen right now in Dahlin and Owen Power. So we'll keep watching him, his status. I want to look more about his defensive game because I'm noticing these things about him in the offensive zone. I'm going to really keep an eye on him this week and what he's doing differently, if anything, in the defensive zone because he doesn't have the puck. He's not down there very often, right? Like that's the other thing. They're in the offensive zone more often when he's out there on the ice. When we come back, quick look at the standings and the 2 teams the Sabres have jumped above in the Atlantic Division and whether or not they are going to stay there. That's coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast with Joe DiBiase. Today's episode of Locked On Sabres is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action all season long. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks has invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out your lineup even if it isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts their members first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. They now offer Venmo for quick and easy deposits on withdrawals into your account this sports season. Check out the Prize Pick app. Download it today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Final segment here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. The Sabres will play the Minnesota Wild on Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve. Gravy boats. We'll talk more about the Wild upcoming, but Gravy boat giveaway looks like a pretty good one. Probably one of the better ones you'll have all year. They look like Zambonis. It's a good one. We'll talk more about Minnesota, though, in a coming day. Let's look at the standings, though, and what's going to happen around the Sabres while they are off here for a couple of days. Start scoreboard watching more and more. Like I'm at now. This week. I think I'm really going to start getting into it. Scoreboard watching around the league. I'm poking around the league. I'm watching once in a while. Like I'm checking the scoreboard in the mornings after. But now it might be more like tracking live for me going forward. I don't know if Sabre fans will do that alike. I know a lot already are. So like for instance, the two teams I'm really watching the most now are Tampa and Boston. Both of which are behind the Sabres in the standings on total points. Points percentage, Tampa is ahead of them, but it's, standings go by points total. And tonight, by the way, 7 o'clock, you got Colorado and Tampa Bay. So you're rooting for Colorado in that game, obviously. But right now, the Sabres sit in third place in the Atlantic Division with 23 points in 21 games. Boston holds the second wildcard spot with 23 points in 22 games, and then Tampa with 22 points in 19 games. So right now you are tied with Boston, but you've played one fewer game, and you're 1 point ahead of Tampa, who's played 2 fewer games. Those are the two teams. If the Sabres want to make the playoffs, they're going to need one of two things to happen. The way I look at it right now, and by the way, assumed in this hypothetical is that they are going to stay above the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, who right now are on a little bit of a heater, the Flyers, the Red Wings, the Penguins, and the Senators. Like all those, and Montreal. All those teams that are right now, like the bottom 6, 7 of the conference. For this hypothetical, let's assume the Sabres are above them. To make the playoffs, they need one of two things to happen. They either need Washington to slow the you-know-what down. In fact, they've started to. They've lost 2 in a row without Alex Ovechkin. So with Ovechkin out 4 to 6 weeks, the Sabres are either going to need Washington to fall apart. Because if that happened, then the Rangers would go up in the top 3 in the Metro. Washington would fall out, and you would have room for 5 teams out of the Atlantic to make the playoffs. If Washington doesn't do that, if they don't fall apart, and they continue to look like a playoff team, and it's going to be a year where there's 4 teams out of the Metro and 4 teams out of the Atlantic, well, then what the Sabres are going to have to be able to do is they're going to have to finally unseat one of Boston or Tampa. The 2 older Atlantic teams that have been great for a long time, that we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the demise of, and it just hasn't happened yet. This year, I think you've got more likely a team in Boston that is ready to fall down. I think Tampa's pretty good still. And Tampa last year proved they've got so many guys that could just flip a switch like that. And they've got Andrei Vasilevsky. They've got arguably the best 3 goalies in the world. They've got one of them. And when he's playing, they're automatic. Braden Point's still a young, amazing player. They've got a good core still there. Tampa, and I think their underlying numbers look better. They have a +9 goal differential on the year. Like Tampa, is possible for this, I think Boston's more likely. Boston, who's won 2 in a row since firing their coach, Jim Montgomery, they might be just riding that adrenaline high of the new coach, though, for a couple of games. We'll see. That might come back to earth. They are minus 19 on the season in goal differential. Boston so far has not been great. Oh, actually, I meant to look this up. Where they rank this season on some of the underlying numbers at 5-on-5. Goals for percentage, the Bruins rank 15th in the NHL. Okay, a little better than I thought, but still not great. Middle of the pack. Corsi for percentage. What percentage of the shot attempts do they get in a given game? Boston ranks 24th. Okay, not quite as good on that front. So the Bruins, who've been beat bad a bunch of times and maybe are finally starting to feel their lack of talent at the center position in particular, are maybe a team the Sabres could finally jump above, could finally, beat out and be a playoff team in the Atlantic Division. Those are the 2 teams that we're going to be watching more and more this season. This is a good sign, though. We were hoping, this is for now, that the Sabres have graduated a little bit here from competing and thinking about Detroit and Ottawa to thinking about and watching Tampa and Boston. It's a whole nother ball game, whole nother league that you're in. If they're able to continue to compete with the Bruins and the Lightning compared to the Red Wings and the Senators, you've graduated if you're able to do that. And we'll see if they're able to as the games progress here. Wednesday night against the Minnesota Wild is next up. We'll talk more about it on tomorrow's show, and we'll look ahead to the week. How many points should they get this week? They have 3 games, 2 at home, 1 against a great Minnesota team. How many points would you take in the next 3 this week? Let us know what you think. Join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres if you want to sign up for our Locked On Sabres text line, at Locked On Sabres on Twitter, or you can follow me on Blue Sky at Sneaky Joe. All those avenues are available to you. Check out our sister shows, Locked On Bills. Joe Marino is going to start prepping you for Bills and Niners this coming Sunday. Our sister show, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, with Steal and Flip, got you covered all season long, including this week with some daily fantasy hockey tips as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow, though, here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.